my first thought, can you hear me? Is it on? Okay. My first thought in reading the passage for today with the widow's mite was how well it fit in with the season of stewardship right now at St. Peter's, leading up to all of the members turning in their pledges for the upcoming year. I have often heard this passage preached in this way. That sermon would go something like this. We'd focus on the widow who, out of her poverty, gives everything that she has, and how even though the sum of money was less than the wealthy donors, Jesus says that it is more because she gave sacrificially. And shouldn't we all do the same and be like the widow? But is anyone else alarmed that the widow gives everything she had, all she had to live on? God repeatedly instructs his people to care for the widows. And here, Jesus emphasizes that she had nothing left by repeating, out of her poverty, she has put in everything she had, all she had to live on. I don't think Jesus' primary message here is be like the widow, which Jesus, by the way, never says. Instead, the message is beware these scribes who devour widows' houses and leave them with so little that when they drop pennies as their sacrifice at the temple, they have no money left to eat. Jesus is saying something about wealth inequality and about a society that doesn't look out for the poor. He's saying something about the church and what community should look like. So let's focus in on the scribes that Jesus is warning against. Jesus describes them in 6 ways. First, they walk around in long robes. These long robes are pretty, but impractical. These clothes indicate that they are not laboring, that they are leisured men of honor. As someone who works in an office setting, I have to say that it is not unlike business attire, which is meant to situate yourself of being in a particular social class. And unlike a uniform or other types of work clothes, business attire is notable in its impracticality for movement or doing any sort of manual labor, just like the scribes' robes. The second description is that the scribes like to be greeted with respect in the marketplace. Oof. I do wear business clothes to work, but that's kind of required. So I didn't identify as much with the long robes bit, but being greeted with respect, who doesn't like that? I definitely do. And third, they like to have the best seats in the synagogue, where they are near to the action, they can see and be seen. And while at church, I prefer sitting in the back, where I can slip in a little late without being publicly seen. But in other settings, I would love to have front row seats. So far, no one has offered me courtside seats to a Nets game to sit next to Beyonce and Jay-Z. But if anyone wanted to gift those to the Howard family, we would not say no. And all jokes aside, it isn't even really about the seats or the view. It's about the status and who's who. And similarly, fourth, the scribes like to have places of honor at banquets. Again, I'm cringing a bit because the scribes don't seem that different from me. It feels good to be honored. The next 2 items are where things take a turn. 5, the scribes devour widows' houses. Yikes. We went from appreciating being greeted with respect to devouring widows' houses. That escalated quickly. And lastly, the scribes say long prayers for the sake of appearances, and presumably not for the sake of honoring God. A parallel today in liberal circles might be performative wokeness, outdoing each other in performative acts of recognizing privilege, but without making actual change to honor God or our neighbor. In these 6 descriptions, Jesus paints a picture of religious leaders who desire for themselves to be exalted. And there are real consequences for others in the community. especially the poor and the marginalized. In this list of traits that Jesus warns us about, there's a theme of these scribes wanting to be exalted by others. And yet, a basic truth of following Christ is to exalt God above others and in humility to consider others better than yourself. However, this is very hard to do in practice, even in the helping professions. For instance, when I graduated from college, my very first job was working in youth ministry at a church outside of Washington, D.C. And I showed up on my first day feeling really good. I had just finished a prestigious degree program. I had so much to teach these students, so much to give. And the very first task I was given on the first day of my first job was to sweep the floor of the gym. I was taken aback. Are you sure you don't want me to prepare a talk or to start mentoring the kids? But no, what needed to happen was to have the floor swept so that when the students came in and sat on the floor of the gym during youth group, it would be clean. I wish I could say that I learned this lesson then, to serve in the ways that are needed, not to think more highly of myself or to desire a position of more prominence. But unfortunately, I think this is going to be a lifelong lesson. I am often like the scribes. And I wonder if there are ways that you are like the scribes, seeking recognition or accolades. What would it look like for us to instead turn towards God, who already sees you and loves you? What would it look like for us to truly consider others better than ourselves? Are there ways that you are called to love and support others in our community, including through time and talents, so that we are a community who does not allow the widow to leave the temple with nothing? Let me try telling the story in a different way. When I was little, I loved the book The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein. Has anyone read that book before? Okay, some nods. So for those of you who haven't, in the story, there's a little boy who's friends with a tree. And he would climb the tree and make crowns from her leaves, eat her apples, and play hide and seek. And as he got older, he wanted different things. He wanted money to buy things in the market, so the tree gave him her apples that he could sell to buy those things. And then he wanted a house. So she gave him her branches to build a house, and then he wanted a boat. So she gave him her trunk to build this boat. And in the end, she was just a stump, and he was an old man, and he sat on the stump to rest. And the book says that the tree was happy. I didn't know until a year or two ago that this book is actually quite controversial and is on some banned book lists even. The concern is that the boy and the tree actually have a very unhealthy relationship. He is always taking from and harming the tree and giving nothing in return. The one line after she has given her trunk to him to use as a boat is a bit haunting when read that way. And the tree was happy, ... but not really. A playwright named Topher Payne wrote an alternate ending of the book. Instead of the giving tree, his version is called The Tree Who Sets Healthy Boundaries. The story is the same up until the point that the boy asks for the house. And at this point, instead of giving her branches, the tree says, "Okay, hold up. This is already getting out of hand. Look, I was fine with giving you the apples to help you get back on your feet. They'll grow back next season anyway. But no, I am not giving you a house. You know, I've seen boys like you pull this nonsense with other trees in the forest. First it's the apples, then the branches, then the trunk. And before you know it, that beautiful tree is just a sad little stump. Well, look here, boy, I love you like family, but I am not going down like that." The story then continues with the boy realizing that he had not considered his friend's feelings. The tree teaches him the importance of empathy, and then the two of them have a lovely life together. with the boy attending culinary school, the tree taking online courses in small business management, and together they open a bakery and sell the best apple pies. And it ends with a reminder that setting healthy boundaries is a very important part of giving. It assures you'll always have something left to give. And so the tree was happy, everyone was, the end. This retelling is satisfying and compelling in describing human relationships. I think Jesus' message for the scribes is more like this second version of the story, i.e., don't be like the little boy who destroys the tree. In our community with each other, we should care for one another and not allow each other to reach a point of not having anything left to live on. The boy should not have asked for the tree's branches or trunk, killing the tree. And if he had, the rest of the community of the forest should have stepped in. It's a failure of the temple and of the giving system for the widow to have so little. The temple should be providing for her needs, not taking her last coins, even if offered willingly. There is some tension here to acknowledge when you consider the widow's perspective. Are we called to give all or not? In our relationship with God, we are asked to hold nothing back. Jesus says, "Whoever comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even life itself, cannot be my disciple." And he tells the rich young ruler to go sell all that you have and give it to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. And we are called to love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all of your mind. And this is a response to a God who gives his all to us. In God's economy, it isn't a zero-sum game. As we saw in the widow in the First Kings passage, who used her last oil and flour to give to the prophet, she then miraculously still had enough for herself and for her son. Because God creates out of nothing. God is the giving tree, who gives his apples, branches, and trunk, and does not remain a stump. Jesus is resurrected from the dead and ushers us into new life. We are called to give our all to God, but as part of God's family, that should mean that we all have enough. We are called to give our all to God, but to look out for each other. To tell each other that it's okay to take a step back from volunteering in a season where you need that time. To take a step back from giving when you have a pressing financial need in your own family. But that also requires others in the community to step up their volunteering or donations in their stead. The widow is foreshadowing what Christ is about to do. Unlike the scribes with their self-righteous robes, God did not come in power and glory, but in the form of a human being, a baby wrapped in swaddling cloth. And God's sacrifice, like the widow's, was given willingly and fully. Jesus gave up his life for us, not because we had done something to deserve it, but for the simple reason that God loves us. He loves every one of those scribes, even while he admonishes their behavior. He sees and loves the widow who no one else even noticed. He sees and loves you exactly as you are. Jesus, in many ways, is like the giving tree in the original version. He gives of his whole life, his whole self, out of love for us. And it isn't a fair trade at all. There is nothing we could ever give of equal value, just like there's nothing the boy can do to repay the tree. But that isn't what Jesus asks of us anyway. Jesus just asks us to follow him, to be with him like the boy is with the tree in the end. But unlike the tree, through the miracle of resurrection, God is not depleted.